Hey, this is the Reef podcast. We use language that's not safe for work. Unless you work in the industry of reef keeping, then it's perfect. Put it on.
Hey, beefer people. This is Reef Beef, and my name is Ben.
My name is Rich.
And today we're going to talk about a 500-gallon aquarium that I took over. We're going to talk about the loss of Jake Adams. We're going to talk about is industry marketing sort of ruining the hobby, or is it just me feeling like I'm not on the cutting edge? And this show is brought to you by saltwateraquarium.com. It is powered by PolypLab, and it is also brought to you by Champion Lighting. Right off of the top, unless you live underneath a rock, that I assume that you're watching this about reef tank stuff, that you know who Jake Adams is. And man, what was it now, Richard? A week ago?
It was the 21st.
The 21st that the world lost Jake Adams. Now, I won't go into all that detail, but that hit me pretty hard. It hit me hard enough that we were going to record some, and I didn't feel, neither Richard nor I was just feeling it. And it sort of shell shocked me because Jake was not that old and it was very sudden. He was on his way to go diving, and we lost him. And he does have a GoFundMe, and we would like to point to that. That will be in the show notes. His wife, Windsor, is with child. And so, I feel like the community can reach in and help out in that regard. I don't even know where to start with Jake, man. I've known him for 20 years almost. Richard has known him as long, if not probably longer than me. And it was always a back and forth, man. He really liked to mix it up. I honestly can't tell you that I know, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, I don't know anyone that was as obsessed as he was. Him and I had joked a couple times because even me, I get home from doing this, and I have a couple different hobbies that I have to jump into. Jake was 24/7 aquarium stuff. I think he dreamt it, and he woke up and did it all day long. He's responsible for Reef Builders, and they had the podcast, the Reef Therapy, with him and Mark Vanderwall. And anyways, it's a huge loss, Richard.
It's nuts. Jake, he's polarizing, and everyone who knows him has fought with him because that's just kind of what you do. And sometimes he and I wouldn't talk, and sometimes we would talk a lot, and we were on an upswing of talking. And we saw him at Aquashella, and we had a great weekend hanging out with him. And then he and I were texting back and forth. We had all kinds of ideas for, stupid crap the two shows could do together. It would be really fun. And then he and I were just talking again about reef stuff. We were talking about testing and doing some comparative stuff. And then he died just out of the blue. It was one of those things where when I got the first phone call and the first text, that I was like, this can't be true. It was just like, what? It was so far outside of, the realm of possibility, which is, I guess, how it happens. So, yeah, love him or hate him or love him, or love him or love him. You had to respect him no matter what. You just had to, because of his knowledge and his passion and what he was doing with it all. And he was everywhere, and he's not anymore. And that's going to be weird. That's going to be weird for a while.
I have to say, Jake, if you're watching this, very inconvenient.
Yeah. You selfish jackass.
Come back, man.
So go to the GoFundMe for Windsor and for the unborn Jake baby. That sounds great. There's no way to make any of this sound good.
No.
And we're being restrained. We've been one of the ways Ben and I deal with death is to make the most inappropriate jokes possible, which we're not going to do as much here. If Jake was here, he would be laughing at the jokes we're making. But it just, I don't know. It's just too out of the blue for me to feel so good about it. So, you know, I told you guys that, you know, at MACNA, I realized after COVID that I didn't want to have any animosity with people anymore, you know, any animosity. And then Matt Peterson brought up a couple names. I went, ooh, those are going to be hard for me to not have, you know, just really one. But everybody else, I don't want to really fight with anybody. I just want to talk with people and we can disagree, but I don't want to fight. And so, you know, if anything, you know, Jake's dying is a reminder, you know. I'm so happy the last things I said to Jake, you know, were good times and fun. And cordial and respect and all that stuff. So, you know, hug the people you know and be nice to the people you don't, and just fucking be cool.
I'll put a picture right here of me and Jake sitting together during the Aquashella.
You shill.
Aquashella.
You're shilling your relationship with Jake for some cheap clicks.
No, it's not that. But what I'm trying to say on this is I spoke to him, I don't know what it was, an hour and a half. It was just Jake and I. And man, we really found, we had talked a lot of times before, but not for this long. And we found a lot of common grounds. We were making plans for me. I believe I'm still doing it, but speaking at Reef Stock. And I guess this feels weird to do, but I sort of want to tell the weird world what the plans were that we had for the podcast, just now that it's not there. But we were going to
maybe we'll do it with Mark.
Yeah, we could still do it.
Maybe we'll just do it.
We were going to switch out. I was going to be on Reef Therapy and be as Mark, and no one was going to say my name. I was just going to assume that I was Mark, and Mark was going to come on this show and just be Ben. But we'll see. We'll still do something with Mark for sure.
And then Jake and I were going to do a show together where he was me and I was him.
So, man, anyway.
Yeah, it's fucking weird, right? It's just weird. You know, and then a few days later, I woke up and I got these corals that I can never remember the name of. And Jake told me what they were years ago. And I woke up and I went, shit, that's one of the things I meant to ask Jake at Aquashella was what these were, so I wouldn't have to look it up again, or I wouldn't have to figure it out. And then, you know, one night I stayed up for 3 hours trying to figure out what they were. They're Javanina, and they're like a better looking Rhizotrochus coral.
That was definitely one of Jake's strong suits. I mean, man, he could name like even freshwater stuff, saltwater stuff.
And I remember like in 2006 calling him from the fish store and going, hey, are the multicolor angels, are they jerks?
Yeah.
And he was like, no, they're pretty okay, you know, and having a conversation, then buying the fish right there.
And anytime I posted, and if I called something, let me try to see if I called something like a Lord Acan or something, he's like, no, that's micromusa. Or if I called an orange lobophilia, no, it's homophilia. I think I have those right. But, you know, I never got offended in that because I think for me, like, it's just being correct. I don't care about being corrected. I'm trying to give the right information out there. But Jake could always come out of the woodworks and correct your name on stuff.
I think one of the first things he said to me was after a talk, he just woke up to me and said, it's pelagic. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? So yeah, that's a resource and that's gone. And besides being a nice guy, it's like, wow. It was like I always had this book that I knew I could open up, and now I don't have it anymore. And we all don't have it anymore. So this is a weird one. I don't like it.
Nope.
Make it stop.
Make it stop.
Do.
This episode is powered by PolypLab. And what does that mean when this show is powered by PolypLab? What are these items that are powering us?
Well, Reefroids.
Yep.
Right? That's a delicious food stuff that I feed to my baby corals. There's this. This is a PolypLab block. for growing helpful bacteria. It's
Richard,
nice
can you knock that on the table or your head? It's not crumbly. It's very
not
solid.
crumbly at all. It's very solid. And then here's the gluelets. I found out that the gluelets don't just come in the grenade, but they also come in a box of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 4, 6, 7, or 8 of them are in here. And these are single-use gluelets. And Ben started me using these. I actually like them a lot now. And if you're super cool, PolypLab might send you a jacket.
See, I'm not that cool. Look at that. Oh my God. What?
Yeah.
Dude.
PolypLab. They've got a bunch of good stuff, and we use the stuff. We don't talk about stuff we don't use, so go check them out. Powered by PolypLab.
Anything new going on with your tanks?
Anything new going on with my tanks? I did a bunch of work in the display of little things that I knew Jake would have liked me to do. So, you know, you put off like the little things, like rearranging corals, you know, smaller corals, you know, to set them up for the next 8 months, where they'll grow and the color will look good. And so I did a couple hours of that. Other than that, yeah, I moved a whole lot of stuff around in the lab to get ready for spawning. The heavy lifting is done. And now I've just got to fine tune a bunch of stuff, and we'll be ready for that. Otherwise, no.
Cool.
No. Otherwise, it's just digging along. What about you? What's going on in Ben? Ben has the most expensive clientsville.
No, I definitely don't. I don't want to portray it like that. I'm a small fish. But I don't know. I this last 2 weeks has been really good to me. I did pick up a lot of stuff, a lot of potential stuff. One sort of exciting thing for me is picked up a 500-gallon, but it's gonna be a challenge.
That's that tall one, right? In that
48 inches tall.
Oh man.
And I have some cool plans, but I guess I want to tie this in. You know, we have a Discord, and over on the Discord, we have a member section. If you signed up to be at least a bronze level beefer, you can go in there, and I'm sharing like daily, and I see this tank once a week, so I'm sharing all the changes that I'm making, and everyone's like sort of pitching in their ideas or their thoughts or just the discussion of it. But I'm redoing the whole thing. The first visit was last week, and he had an old bullet, a precision marine bullet skimmer from like the 90s.
Yeah, 100,000 watts of power going through it.
You know, I took it off. There's just better ways to do it. And I put on a Tunza 9040 skimmer on it. It's a pretty interesting skimmer. And I got to redo the lights. I got to redo the aquascaping. It's so terrible because it's a 4-foot tall tank. And the guy that did it before me, he only went with the rock work like straight across and halfway up. And it's just the most like elementary thing you've ever seen. It is sort of funny. There's two, for whatever reason, the guy, not the client, but the guy he had doing it, put these 2 oblong things on there. And when I went to go see it, he sort of looked around the house and he goes, "My wife calls those the penises."
What were they?
They're just long pieces of rock that are pointing straight up. No rhyme, no reason. That was the guy's attempt at aquascaping, I suppose.
Awesome.
It's really sad.
Awesome.
But I don't know, for anyone watching this, so that, you know, I'll share some other details on Discord, but I'm going to be trying a new light for the first time. Reef Unos, they're having a version 2. And I spoke with the owner of that place, and I'm going to try those above the tank. Supposed to be able to punch down to, it'll be a mixed reef, but should be able to punch all the way down to that 4 feet.
That's cool. Speaking of new lights, I got a Quanta Pro Bar.
Oh, you did? I got one too. Well, it didn't come yet. It should be here any day.
So Jim Telegram, who introduced our last show, was telling us about them, and they seem pretty good. They're very heavy, and they seem pretty bright. So I'm trying to decide if I'm going to replace some XHOs, some Reef Brights with it or not. But it's pretty good. I got the Meso Blue. So we'll see.
You know what was fun for me? So I called him, and you know, I'm just talking to him. I was like, hey, I have a aquarium maintenance company down in Houston, and you know, I spoke with Jim Graham, and he said to check out your lights. And so I started talking to him and everything, and opened up an account and all this stuff. And I waited until like 20 minutes into the conversation because I didn't want to assume or anything. And I was like, have you ever heard of Reef Beef? And he just started tripping out. And he was like, no way. Why didn't you say anything? I was like, dude, I don't want to start a conversation like that. It sounds arrogant, but
Don't you know who I am?
no, I didn't want it to be like that, but he was tripping out. He's like, oh, dude, I love it. And then I felt good too, because honestly, I feel real serious about this. If you like a product or something like that, you don't necessarily like ask for some sort of discount. If I like a thing, I want to support it. And for me, for my purposes, you know, I'm selling this thing. So whether this sounds bad or not, it's just other people's money. So, you know, he sort of said, hey man, thanks for not like pulling some sort of, you know, thing and asking to have it for free or anything like that. And
Yeah,
like,
he
oh,
did
dude.
it, and then he offered us a discount in the future.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. I never ask either. It always feels sleazy to me to ask. I'll take your discount. Don't get me wrong. I love getting a discount, but I'm never gonna assume or ask you for one.
And if people approach me right off the bat, hey, we want you to try this skimmer, blah blah blah, cool, send it. But I'm not gonna call you and do that. I agree. It feels weird and slicky.
Yeah.
You know, there's the deal that we have that like buy us a beer, buy us a coffee, whatever program. Yeah. So this guy, I think he calls himself Patrick X. So he wrote a funny thing, and I wanted to read that.
Where did he post it?
He posted it. He posted it in the app, the Buy Me a Beer app, I believe.
Oh, that's right. He bought us right. So
he bought us like 5 beers.
We're making this push to like either buy us some beers, or actually we want people to become members and then get on the Discord and be in the members area.
Yeah.
Which is really fun. And Ben, you mentioned that earlier. You're doing the 500 gallon, you're doing the 400 gallon freshwater system. I'm doing the spawning stuffs, and we've got stupid shit Ben sees. So those are all like members. There's like members groups. So those are pretty fun. Yeah. And this guy Patrick was nice enough to. Well, I'll let you read what he wrote, because this is really nice.
He says, having listened since the start, I'm hitting that point where your intro music gives me that familiar happy feeling. And in parentheses, not in a sexual way. Well, that's too bad, but whatever. You guys are entertaining. I learn shit, and it helps me stay engaged in this sometimes dumb fuck hobby. Appreciate you guys being genuine and insightful. I don't want to buy your fucking underwear. Again, your loss. Much love, Patrick. And he bought us 5 beers.
That's awesome. Thank you, Patrick. I don't want to buy your fucking underwear.
It's done. It's not used or anything, brother. You know.
Though we charge more for that. Yeah, that's pretty hip. And the Discord's been really fun.
It has, big time. As a matter of fact, I'm a little surprised, and I know we're just starting, but it's at first I was like, oh, cool, and engaging a lot, but it has already hit like, you know, that critical mass where it's like, I can't possibly follow everything that's being. It's definitely its own community now.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons for the members only groups. It's like we pay extra attention to those.
Yeah.
The general groups, it's so much, blah 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 blah, so fast, and it's usually about jizz, or no, it's not usually. it's usually about poop. There's a lot of poop discussion.
And I apologize, man. I don't know whether this is here or there, but I don't know how many people go on there and expecting, like, you know, a scientific dissertation. But the funny thing is, it can be found
not on the poop forum.
Not on the poop forum. But yeah, and I apologize. It's a bunch of sophomoric silliness, but I don't know. It's also, we just want it to be, you know, low key hangout. You should be able to find whatever you want there.
Yeah, and if you can, it seems like it's good for asking questions, because there's usually people on there who know some stuff, so you'll get some quick answers. But you know, somebody was like, you know, maybe we should split the forums up. We're still figuring out Discord, so we don't know what the hell we're doing yet. But It was like, oh, when we were talking about it, about what some suggestions were, we were like, this isn't a form. This isn't for you to go and search back and get information for. I don't think that's what it is.
It's almost like instant gratification. Like, say,
Yeah.
guys, I have an algae problem, blah, blah, blah. And then it can be
Yeah.
answered right there.
And then it was like, well, if we have we made an off-topic area that immediately became an on-topic area. It's like no one cares.
And everything that's on topic gets off topic. So
Yeah,
whatever.
so
it's just a free for all.
It's hard to decide what to do, but moderators came up and I went, well, I don't want it. We don't want. No. Well, what are you going to do when you get someone who's an asshole? It's like, delete them immediately.
Later, fucker. No reason for that. No reason for that.
Yeah. So it's cool. Check it out. It's fun. I've been enjoying it.
Oh, big time.
Do.
Richard, saltwateraquarium.com is an awesome place. And one of the things I like about them is they have a mobile app that makes it easy. You can, honestly, what I've done before, I have literally, I think it was 5:38 a.m. in the morning, and I sat there on my phone and was just scrolling through and ordering things. It makes it easy. You got to make it easy. I'm trying to spend money at 5:38 a.m. You need to facilitate me.
I did exactly the same thing, except it was at like 2:42 a.m.
Nice.
And I went, oh shit, I forgot to order flatworm eggs that I needed for that one tank.
Yeah.
And then I ordered it, and then I woke up and it was shipped already. So it'll be here in a day or two. I'm thrilled with that. I like saltwateraquarium.com. They're really easy to order from. They've got all kinds of stuff, and they're really supportive of the hobby. Yeah.
They have 3 different locations across the United States, so that, if you're like way over here, they'll throw it to you from there. If you're in the middle or on the other side, the grandpa is in the closet waiting. I bet you when you ordered at 2:38 a.m., that grandpa, Kenneth's grandpa was in the closet and he got that text.
He got a shock.
He got an electroshock. He's like, oh, Richard's ordering.
And then he limps.
He had it packaged and ready to go when Kenneth's there with a cup of coffee, opening the doors,
unlocking the shackles.
Yes, to his father.
Yeah, if you haven't figured out, we like saltwateraquarium.com, and we've liked them since before this podcast existed, and they supported us. They got everything you need. Go check them out. They're great.
So Richard, my main thing for this show that I came up with was, and I'm trying to be succinct with it, but more and more and more that I watch videos and engage with this industry outside of what I'm doing for work, God, there's just stuff. This hobby has become complicated if you let it. There's just all this stuff going on, and it is good. I don't want to make it sound like it's bad. Some of the things I get worried about is, my premise was, does the industries, do all the companies like marketing, trying to come up with ways to do this and that and stuff in a bottle and trends and stuff like that? Is it sort of ruining the hobby? Because I sort of feel, to a certain degree, and I know you feel the same way, that we've been doing.
Put words in my mouth. Don't put words in my mouth, Ben Johnson.
I won't. But we've been doing it long enough, is that like we have a good grip on what we're doing. We're to a certain degree, we're sort of autopilot, but also letting new info in and still trying new things. So maybe autopilot is not the great way to put it. Still open-minded, because there's going to be new ways to do stuff. It's just like, I just don't know how much out there. I've always been this way in the hobby. Someone's like, oh, there's this new piece of equipment that's, like when solid carbon dosing first came out in biopellets. I remember thinking way back then, I'm quite often not an early adopter of stuff, because I've always had the attitude of, hey, let's see if that's around in a couple of years. Because at this point, I have seen too many things come and go, that when a new thing comes up, if you're new to the hobby, everything's new. But once you've been in the trenches for a while and someone's like, hey, there's a new thing you do with this and this, and it's like, oh, okay. And I might read and look into it, but I might also have the attitude, it's like, I'll see if that's still around in a couple years and vetted and proven and this and that. There just seems like, you know, the bacterial testing, the microbiome and the ICP and the people tweaking at elements that, my problem with that is, you know, elements that sometimes I feel like I'm not, which, you know, I'm not necessarily in that position anyways, but like feeling whether you're on the cutting edge of the industry or not. There's just so much crap going on. I just feel like, but I just feel like I'm lost in all this like massive, maybe it's an influx of a bunch of new hobbyists and interests.
No, I think I understand what you're going to. I've been sitting here quiet because I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
I know. I'm sorry.
At the very end, you say. So I think what you're feeling is that you don't have your finger on the pulse of it anymore, right?
Yeah.
And this is one of the reasons why I also fight to stay on forums, right? Because I like to kind of have some idea of what's going on. But I think there's a few things going on. I think it's harder to keep your finger on the pulse if you're not actively trying new things.
Yeah.
Right. And I think what I'm seeing lately is if you're not actively setting up new, like, so I know Hydros is out there and I know what Hydros is doing. Right. But I can't find any reason why I should spend any money on Hydros to try it. You know what I mean? It's just the point where that I'm at where I want to just try stuff because it's new. I don't care about that. So it's got to have, I need to have a reason for me to use it.
There's so much items. Maybe it's because of that whole COVID thing where like a lot of people got into the industry. I mean, I don't know any way that, you know, I'm not anywhere where I can quantify the amount of new hobbyists that came in.
Yeah, but you don't care about all the new stuff. You care about new stuff that's good, right?
Well, it makes me feel like, you know, sometimes I'm like, man, I don't know shit about shit. And then I go look at some of the tanks that I do and I was like, dude, that's something to be proud of.
Yeah.
So, but it's funny, but all the new methods and stuff that are being tried right now, it makes me feel like I don't know shit. And I'm like, no, I do good aquariums.
Yes. And I think you're right. It's about what I always call the million monkeys. And I've always said this forever, right? I didn't come up with the term a million monkeys, but why should I be the first to try a new product? A whole bunch of other people can try it first, you know, unless there's a real compelling reason, you know, for me to want to try it. I'm going to do like you. I'm going to wait and see. Is it going to pan out? Is it going to be here in 2 years? You know, if, you know, ooh, use this new controller. It's like, I don't know. You know, is that going to be here in a year? You know, even like the aquarium engineering stuff, the Bill Wan stuff. I like that stuff. It took me a little while to get into it and to get some of it. But he's gone now. So yeah. It's like, that's it. So when those things croak out, if I don't have the spare parts or I can't manufacture something, won't have it. And that's kind of the way it goes. But I also think, this is the part I think is the most interesting, that I think a lot of the new stuff isn't panning out. And the new stuff in the last 5 to 10 years, right? There's now a movement for people to run their nitrate and phosphate at some higher levels.
I can't do it, man.
So,
and but that's one of the ones that makes me feel like I'm in the dark.
It's the levels.
So the rage.
It's the higher levels.
Yeah, no, I know. Adding phosphate and nitrate.
No, I'm not talking about adding phosphate and nitrate. I'm just talking about the levels people have in their mind of what should be. You know, now it's like, you know, people are starting to say nitrate like in the 20 to 30 range, and phosphate, you know, into the 0.15 or 0.2. And I'm like, fuck everyone. Fuck everyone.
I heard you, where was it? But I saw you, you and me were on something, on drugs. No, you and me were on some sort of thing. And I saw you, you know, visually be like, fuck all that. But, you know, because you've been saying like, guys, don't wrench the nutrients down uber low. It's not, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. And now it seems like, for whatever it's worth, I don't know that I've been there in any of my systems, but whatever everyone's employing it seems like we've gotten to the point where people have been able to bottom out nitrate and phosphate, and now they're clawing back where you and I are standing outside of the hole being like, oh, welcome back.
Yeah. Well, you know, the whole push for, you know, sterile and dry live rock and dry cycling of a tank, right? And that all came from vendors and manufacturers, right? Because they have something to sell you. But now it's funny to see those people turning around and going, oh, well, yeah, biodiversity is important. And, you know, so get some goo from someone else's tank. And then people go, oh, my God, that's a crazy idea. And it's like, that's how we've been doing it forever. It's always been about setting up a system and letting the system stabilize and then adding to it by having a bunch of stuff in there. This whole sterile is, so I'm a little like, I want to stab some people because I kind of want to go, you were some of the people who made it into this sterile idea and you were pushing this crap. And now you're turning around and saying, hey, I've come up with this. And it's like, no, you haven't. You know, that's in every one of the books up there talks about it.
And so, I'm not dissing anyone who's now championing Kalkwasser. I mean, a lot of those people are my friends, but that's another one where you and me are some of the people that everyone's like, oh my God, Kalkwasser. And I'm like, I've literally been fucking with Kalkwasser for like 25 years and I never stopped.
Well, you know, it's this loss of reading, I think, in the hobby. It's all a video or it's online, but it's not really read anymore. And if you read any of the books or you just read, you know, look, there's Coral Magazine, there's Reefs Magazine, there's Advanced Aquarist, right? There's so many articles available that talk about all the stuff. And you know, I get people get excited because it's part of the joy of the hobby is this feeling of discovery, right? But at some point you should really get interested enough to know what happened before, because I would want the beefers to know. I guess I'll just throw this out there, is that be aware that some of the stuff that's getting discovered, there's those of us who have been doing that stuff this whole time. Yeah, there was a post somewhere today,
like an epiphany about something.
Yeah, it was like an epiphany about something that it was like, oh yeah, you know what? If you use salt water, it's better. And you're like, wait, I
got rid of my slate bottomed aquarium and now mine's all made of glass. And it's like, yeah, we've been doing that. But you know, and that's what I'm saying. Sometimes I feel like a dinosaur, and as far as the information goes, they're like, oh man, I'm losing touch. And then again, but I look at, you know, my own aquariums and I'm like, no, that's, you know, I get people, a high percentage of people saying, damn, that's what I want, you know, but then sometimes these are the people that are like burying me in all this info. But it's just like, look, you know, guess what I'm doing with my systems? Not a whole lot, just like hard work. But yeah. To get back on topic, I think one of the things that freaks me out a little bit, and I do recognize that someday this may be something, but you know, the whole thing with people talking about like cobalt and, you know, all these other minor and trace elements, because, and that might be just me. That might not be the industry. That might just be me not understanding what exactly cobalt does. But I just get a little scared when people are like bringing up new elements and then putting that in with ICP analysis, which is cool, but ICP analysis is not as, do I say accurate as people? Is accuracy the right way to say it?
Accuracy is an issue. There's a lot of issues with it. And, you know, is it fit for purpose? Maybe. But here's the thing. It's the same as it ever was, right? So now when you've got something here, if you add this cobalt, it's going to make your colors look better. It's the same as Mark Weiss going, here's my Reef Vital DNA. It's going to make your, you know, so it's like, it's not up to you really to figure out if it makes any sense. It's up for the people who are advocates of a particular piece of methodology to support the use and efficacy of that methodology, right?
Yeah.
So, what are people saying about cobalt? It's kind of the same thing they've said about every trace element at one time or another, which is more of it's going to make your corals look better. Less of it's going to make your corals look better. The right amount of it's going to make corals look better. Oh, don't even bother with that anymore because it's not worth the squeeze. That's how it's going to go unless something magical happens, which could happen. One of these could be found out to be a really useful additive.
It is crazy because while, you could say way in the past, like, I remember even in the 90s when I got into this, like strontium was a thing. So strontium's been a thing for a long time, but it's like,
it came back 2 years ago.
It came back, but I got to a point where I was like, I'm sure strontium's in the good quality salt that I use. So I don't think about strontium, but like Kent Marine had that green bottle, strontium and molybdenum, I remember.
Yeah.
But it's like, we used to use it back then, but the testing, that was the 90s. So I don't remember there being a test for it. So it was a little tricky. So what trips me out is, I'm used to, we can test phosphate, we can test alkalinity, but now we're talking about, since ICP came along, now we're talking about being more used to be, it was a bottle of trace elements. What's in it? I don't know. Some smart people would give you a list of what, but it used to be like just a random bottle of trace elements. Now we're giving names to the thing and like, cobalt and lithium and blah, blah, and all these other nickel and all these other, trace elements. But we're putting this all on the back of ICP analysis, which I don't feel is like completely there. So what I know I'm trying to make a point, but we used to fret over things that were a little easier to test and more capable to be tested. Now we're tripping out over things that are harder to test in tinier amounts.
Yeah. And that's, if a million monkeys want to do that, just like if a million monkeys, and I don't mean that as a put down, right? But if there's people with the UNLS systems, ultra low nutrition systems, I saw no point in that ever. Zeovit systems, I was like, man, I don't like.
I never did it.
Why do you want your corals to look bleached?
Pastel.
Was my feeling. And it was like, if you guys want to do it, go ahead. And kind of nobody does that really anymore. There's still some, but it's not like a thing that people are pushing that much. You just don't see it. So it's kind of like, I feel like we just kind of lay back and wait. And the stuff with the trace elements, I think you're right. It's as dangerous as when we started to have an easy test for phosphate and some way to control phosphate, right? That was my talk, right? When we have both, that means you feel like doing something. And that's, the first phosphate testers that had digital readouts, I used your picture in my talk. And so that was, Ben would go out to a client and he'd run this test 5 times and he would get everywhere from 0.07 to 3.0 parts per million of phosphate. And it's like, well, what do you do with that?
That client, he lived in an airplane hangar, and he was a former flow dynamic professor, but he was real stringent, and so he wanted me to test and sit down. He paid me for it to sit down and like write it down in a notebook. But the first time I ever did that, man, and that was a good 10 years ago. The first time I was like, wait, let me run that again. And it was different. I did it 5 times in a row. So what I started doing, and I did it for a couple months, but I'd run it 5 times in a row, average it, and then write down the number. But after a month, I was like, what the fuck am I doing, man? This is insanity.
It's just complete insanity.
I felt like I was banging against the rev limiter, like what the limit of this Hannah checker said it could do. I was just banging up against the white noise of the limit of what it could do.
So nobody knows. Everybody who's an advocate of cobalt has their idea of how much you should add, right? And I was watching a live stream the other day where they were like, oh, well, yeah, just a little bit, I just do half what they recommend, and I was like, oh, you're just throwing knuckle bones and seeing, there's so
Now, I will say this is how you, well, as long as it was, I guess I would say scientifically stringent, this is how we could one day maybe get to understanding how much cobalt should be in a tank. But again, hey, if you're a cynical person, it feels to me a little bit like the cynical part of me is like the scrutinizing of trace elements gives justification for running frequent ICP analyses. And
well,
that's the fear that I had when ICP analysis, based on your and Chris Maupin's article, saying, watch, right now they're just testing. In a few years, they will be selling things. Now, that's a pretty cynical view. I understand, but that's what you and Chris threw at the wall years ago.
We weren't being cynical about it. We were like, this is what's going to happen. It
happened.
And it's happened. I am the seer of the future. It gets harder to separate that about being cynical and being skeptical, right? Because I'm skeptical and everyone's always called me a cynic, and I'm like, I'm not a cynic. I'm just skeptical. The cynic is going, oh, you're going to rip us off.
Grumpy and negative?
Yeah, grumpy and negative and just meh. The skeptical is like, well, okay. I still have room for all these micro trace elements in my head, but it's going to be just like, fucking micro bubbles. Or ginger for ick. It's like
eco-aqualizer.
You're going to have to, right. It's your claim. I shouldn't be the one who is telling you why the claim doesn't work. You should be providing me evidence with why the claim works. Right? So we've been over this before, but if anybody's asking you to add this thing to your tank, you want to ask what evidence can they show for it? Why should you be adding it into the tank? And if they can't give you something that seems compelling to you, don't add it. It just, you don't need it. And people talk about trace elements all the time, so people think they're trace elements. On that note, I add trace elements to my tank. Why? Right? I don't test for them. Right? I add ESV TE trace elements from Bob Stark because I think having a baseline of trace elements going to the tank can't hurt and could help. And it's inexpensive and it's easy to do. If it was very expensive and a pain in the ass to do, I would not do it. But as a hedge bet, adding trace elements, not such a bad thing to do. Doing more water changes, not such a bad hedge, right? So but you have to just decide for yourself what you think is a good hedge. And I think adding drops of 15 different things might not be so great. Some people are digging it, and I love that they're doing it. But for the bulk of the hobby, I don't think, and if you're a newer hobbyist, forget it. Don't do that.
That's what I was about to say. What would scare me, and we've touched on this before, is there's these conversations that we're having, and to not beat around the bush, there was a Chris Meckley. He's a friend of mine. He's a friend of yours.
Yeah.
And he sort of champions the whole, bring your pH up. And I do agree with that. Even though, pH is tricky to nail down. But these conversations are great. These are the cutting edge of the hobby. But what scares me is if I was in a store and someone walks in, hey, man, I want an aquarium. I've never had an aquarium before. And I heard you're supposed to peg the pH. And it's like, whoa. You're trying to sprint. Let's get, no. You're not ready for that conversation. Just keep a damsel alive for right now. So, people that are just jumping into it's like jumping on a fully moving subway train.
Well, this whole idea that the hobby should be easy to get into, I've always kind of railed against a little bit. I've been unhappy with that. And I think it should be easy, but I think the idea shouldn't be that you're going to be good at this quick, right? Nobody's good at anything quick, right? The first time you did it, why should you be any good? You know, I had a bass for 20 years. I'm terrible. Why should it takes time? Kiteboarding. It's going to take you 6 months to a year to just kind of be able to stay up and kite. You know, it's
like
not
like you would, I mean, because I've seen the videos that like you would go and just, damn it, I'm going to do it. And you buy a kiteboard and then you're trying to like jump over a little peninsula. Like, what are you doing? You're going to die.
Yeah, and we see people trying to do that all the time. It's like, no, you need this kind of foundation, and it's not that bad. You know, I found the thing I was thinking about before, and they were talking about, you know, we need to have diversity, right? And you know, how do we get mature tanks that are 5 to 10 years old are really diverse? How do we do that early? And it's like, oh my God, we know how to do that, but somebody has convinced you that you can't, and that, you know, this whole idea that it's going to take you 5 years for your tank to mature because you started with dry live rock and you're not putting anything else in your tank. You've started off on the wrong foot.
But Richard, and to go full circle, that's my premise of this is I get scared when I look at what's going on in the industry, and it feels to me as if I see the big companies that market are what's pushing the industry versus what I'm saying is like, oh, I got this aquarium from, fucking change water more often.
Yeah. So you're saying what I've been saying to people like that have been, you know, the thought leaders of the hobby. Who are the thought leaders of the hobby? And if the people selling you stuff are the thought leaders of the hobby, you have a problem, because there's no reason to think that they are being honest, right?
Be aware when you are asking for advice. Be aware that if the person giving you advice has a vested interest in making money off of you through that conversation, plain and simple. It might not be the driving factor. They might be just a great person and they're telling you their honest truth. But just be aware if that conversation leads to them making money about what they're talking to you about.
Yeah, you should always be skeptical of that. And now that there's some bigger companies who are also producing media for hobbyists, you do kind of have to squint. And if you know, Magna, you know, fades into the background, you know, doesn't have the same push, you know, that vacuum will get filled. You know, people are already that space is getting filled already by people who are willing to say anything and just push content out there rather than, you know, research it for a couple of years and put it out there. So it's I mean, it's not everybody, but it's very hard to and then you see these people who are selling and presenting the content. Then they come around as they learn more, and then they go, oh, well, this thing. And it's like, but you guys did it all. You made it, you know, you popularized magic in a bottle, this particular magic in the bottle. And a lot of people said that's a terrible magic in a bottle. And then 4 years later, it turns out, really, it was a terrible, terrible magic in a bottle.
Yeah.
Right? So, you know, it's the same as it ever was. It's you know, carpe diem, it's buyer beware, it's all that shit. You got to protect yourself.
New sponsor, Richard.
New sponsor, Ben. Who's our new sponsor?
Champion Lighting, a company that has existed before I was even in this industry.
Wow. Champion Lighting, they're back, and they've got new leadership, and they've got good stuff. What if I know they're sending us some stuff to use.
Captivate.
So they're sending me some foods. I'm really excited about trying them. I think they're going to be excellent. Most importantly, I think it's another food. You know, if you only ate one thing all the time, you'd get bored. So do your corals. So I like to rotate through food. So I'm really excited about that. And they also have that new glue, right?
Yeah. Now it's not ready for market just yet, but I'm champing at the bit because I'm going to be using it on that 500-gallon build that I mentioned before. It is now they don't like the word glue. Supposedly it's semantics, but it is an adhesive. And it's like marine scientists studied the adhesive muscles that mussels adhere to, and they tried to copy it. And I'm looking to use it on that 500-gallon that I do, the rebuild. And it is called
SeaTac.
SeaTac.
And Champion Lighting, besides having that stuff, they got a lot of stuff. So if you're looking for oddball stuff, they got oddball stuff that you can still get from there. What else, Ben? And take it home.
Well, they're in Pennsylvania, so they're on the East Coast. So if you're around on the East Coast, they can get products to you fast there. And they have like, different things, sort of high-end things, like some things that other people are not going to carry, but definitely check them out.
Champion Lighting, thank you for coming on as a sponsor. We look forward to talking about your products and trying them more.
When you're new in any hobby, you're gonna suck, and that's part of learning something new.
I do want to add about what we're talking about. As a seasoned hobbyist, how much do you need to keep up on the newness, right? That's up to you, but I don't think you should feel. I mean, you should know what's going on in your field, right? So you want to keep looking at it, but eDNA, I love it. I love the idea of it. I don't think it's producing anything actionable yet. Perhaps it will one day, and it will become a very useful tool. Right now, I don't think it's quite a useful tool, but I'm sure happy people are supporting it, right?
Because it may develop into something.
Correct. ICP could still become something, but right now I think we're at a place where people are just buying a unit and then trying and then doing the same thing everybody else is doing, and they're not really offering anything significantly better than what's already there. So it's just kind of the same.
It's almost like I used to homebrew beer a long time ago, but it reminds me, like, you used to be able to count, in the United States at least, like the amount of small microbreweries in the nation. And now, good luck with that. But that reminds me, like ICP. I remember when it was just Triton, and now I have no idea the width and depth. There's more ICP companies than I don't know all of them.
Yeah, I know some are doing mass spec, and that's supposed to be better. How
it's not standardized. It's not licensed. It's not,
And there's still the basic issues with using saltwater in these instruments, right?
Yeah.
Nobody in the professional world uses these instruments with saltwater the way they're being used. I'm not looking at it with a fine-tooth comb anymore, but no one's coming up and going, yeah, here's the results of why this works.
Yeah.
That's just not happening. We just keep getting told it works.
Beefers, we're just hashing the difference between what a company's marketing is telling you and what Rich and I as old timers are saying, okay, but let's come back to reality.
Maybe this is a way to think of it. We always say, look at somebody's tank, right? If you want to know if you should take advice from someone, you should see what their tank looks like. And if their tank looks like something you want, you listen to their advice. What's happening, I think, now is there's a bunch of people setting up tanks and then getting a YouTube channel to talk about their progress. And that's fine. But what you have to know is they don't know anything. They're learning as they go. So don't listen to them. Right? I mean, you can listen to them as they're trying this new piece of gear and they like this piece of gear. But in terms of setting up a reef tank and having it be successful over time, they don't, if they've not done it, why are you listening to their advice?
And to sort of backtrack a little bit here, when we were talking about trace elements, but so I don't deny that trace elements are important, especially I will say in a more mature, vigorously growing reef. I feel like trace element addition is not a bad thing. Now, if you're trying to jam trace elements in a baby reef that's not all grown out, I don't know about that. I don't think it's there yet. The draw of trace and minor elements, I don't think until it's something mature and vigorous. So we had a great conversation with our beefers on Discord about this, and I can't remember whether it was Rich and I, or it might even have been a beefer, but we were likening it to taking a multivitamin, because let's see, if you hear in the popular literature, take a multivitamin, but then you also see in other like scientific journals, multivitamins, depends how you're eating, bioavailability, blah, 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 and so I guess the freaky part I see is it's like when I'm putting this in the scope of like multivitamins for a human, people are like, I'm going to take an ICP analysis for my folic acid and my vitamin D. And is the vitamin D exactly where it needs to be? And meanwhile, there's scientific journals that are saying your vitamin D levels need to be this, and another one's like that, and this and that. And I'm Joe Blow. I don't have a degree. And it's like, I don't even know what vitamin D level it is, but my ICP analysis is like folic acid. And I'm standing outside of all this going like, yo, y'all are crazy, messing with this minutia. Your tank looks like shit. Here's an idea. Do a fucking water change and let the big dogs figure out all this other crap, because you're getting caught around the wheel of something we don't even have answers yet. But yet there's this company over here whose marketing team is telling you they have the answers, but I'm fucking telling you that there is no definitive scientific answer for this shit yet. Never mind what a marketing company is telling you that you need it, so it lines their wallet with money. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. There's a million ways to skin a reef. The one thing everyone agrees on is stability. Everything else is optional. So if you haven't learned how to keep it stable, stop adding shit, right? You don't know how to keep it stable. And the shit you're adding, maybe it's like bodybuilding, so you can go to GNC and buy 1 million supplements. You're not ready for 1 million fucking supplements.
But they'll sell it to you in a Muscle and Fitness magazine. They'll say like, you need this.
When you're cut and you're trying to reach that last 3 fucking % because you want to be competitive, okay. But that's what I keep saying about is the juice worth the squeeze? When people say better, I want to know what they actually mean, and I want to know by how much, because I kind of feel like if it's 20% or less better, I don't care. 20% feels like a big number.
But then that's hilarious though, because they're like, trace elements, 20% better.
Right.
What the fuck? Better than what?
Right. When they say better growth, better color,
where's your test?
Well, but just what does that mean better? How much better? We're talking, we're talking about Chris again.
Chris Poppin.
Meckley.
Oh,
Meckley, right? So Chris is all hot on his pH, and that's great, right? I think pH, like we've talked about, pH is important for most hobbyists. It doesn't matter.
I don't think he's wrong.
But what he had great looking corals before he started messing with his pH.
I think he might tell you that they look better again.
Yeah, he does. He has got great looking corals now. So the question is, number one, can anybody else tell the difference? Because if nobody else can tell the difference, he's wasting his time and his money. Right? He might as well do less work. Or he says that they played out faster, they're ready for sale faster. That all makes sense to me. That's all great.
And that's important for him.
Right.
That's important for a coral grow out facility. And again, this isn't contrary to anything that Chris Meckley says, but again, it's all these different things that we're doing. I run a maintenance company. Chris Meckley's trying to grow corals fast and colorful to get them to market. The hobbyist is trying to just have a tank that looks good. Please realize that when we state all these things, we all have different goals. And it's not to say that your goals couldn't align with Chris Meckley at all. I'm not saying that.
Yeah, but the point I was getting at was is the better that Chris seeing? Is it 5% better? Is it 10% better?
Oh,
Is
okay.
it, you know, so if it was taking him 10 weeks, we'll have to have him on and talk about this.
For
If
sure.
it was taking him, I talked about him the other day actually. We were talking about this. But if it was taking him 10 weeks to get a coral to encrust to be able to sell a frag, and he's got that down to 2 weeks,
Time is money.
that's 20% better.
Yeah.
Yeah, so at about 20%, I start going, yeah, maybe that is enough, right, to want to do something. But I think most of the stuff we're seeing, you know, add fucking vanadium and strontium. Don't add vanadium. Strontium, maybe. Adding strontium, how much better is it making it? I'd like
and
people
if you're
to
a hobbyist and you're frustrated and going on forums, I can't get my cobalt high enough and I ordered $500 worth of ICP analysis, I'm going nuts. And you realize that like people like Richard and me are like, what are you doing, man?
What are you doing? Oh, you got a new tank? You should just be enjoying the animals.
For sure.
Don't have a controller. Don't do anything. Do water changes. Leave it alone. Look at it and enjoy it. Stop fucking with it until you have some kind of idea of what's going on. It's like a baby. It's like a baby. When you first bring a baby home, you just fucking don't touch it for a couple of weeks.
No, and then the baby's like, when my taxes, do I do a W9 or what? It's like, fucking baby.
You're a fucking baby.
Shut the fuck up, baby. You don't do taxes yet.
That's good. Yeah, you're really worrying about stuff that you don't need to be worrying about yet.
Yeah, the baby's like, oh my God, what about when I get a boyfriend? What do I do? Shut up, baby.
Shut up, baby. It's the name of the episode.
Yeah,
shut up, baby.
Shut up, baby.
So, if you're a new hobbyist, freaking relax. Oh God, here's a post about somebody. Oh, my rock is now getting green and brown on it. What should I do?
What's your word? Benthic succession?
Benthic succession. I'm on week three. Week 3.
What do you do? Sit back and enjoy the show.
Just shut up, baby.
Shut up, baby.
Shut up, baby.
That's so mean. It's like being mean to noobs. Shut up, baby.
No, I don't mean it, baby, as in like you're a stupid baby. I mean,
no, for sure though.
You're a baby. Shut up.
Yes. Don't freak out.
Fucking just lay there and let someone wipe your ass for you. It's awesome. You're gonna want that. You're gonna miss it. You're gonna not, you know. And no, you don't care about what kind of wipe they're using. Stop it.
You can't even control your bowels. Calm down.
You don't need the magic fucking trace element wipe. Stop it.
Oh man.
Crazy.
Like
crazy.
It. Well, Richard, that's it.
That's it. We'll save the last thing for another show. Maybe.
If you stay tuned. If you become a beefer.
Thank you for beefing, beefers, and thank you for helping us with the Discord as we try to figure out the Discord, which we will. It's a little unwieldy at the moment. There's too many. We got to like put the subcategories on and shit. So
we are Discord babies.
Yeah. At the very least, the beast, my daughter, comes home in a few weeks, and she knows about Discord. So we're waiting until then. But thank you for the support. Thank you for smooshing like. Thank you for sharing us around in Scotland, Ron. And yeah,
I said it.
Show. And I put a couple videos up of some stuff from Jake, the InstaFlow video. Maybe we'll link it below, or maybe Snowman will stick it in right here. We made up Gresham and I made up a product for Jake, because Jake was going on and on about flow a lot, and it was kind of like, yeah, we agree, shut up already. And then somebody said Jake Adams, because flow is more important than water. And we went, ah! And we made bottles, and we made the product. And then Jake did a video about it, and it's pretty great. So maybe it'll happen right here.
We can link to it, right?
Or we'll link to it for sure below. And I've been watching that video a lot because that makes me happy and to think about Jake. So Jake, this is filled with THC drink to you. We'll miss you.
Miss you, brother.
Episode 70 of Reef Beef was hosted by Rich Ross and Ben Johnson. Producers, Ben Johnson and Snowman, directed and edited by Snowman, and thanks to our Prime and Gold level beefers, Scott O, Rich P, Scott C, Pedro, and Ryan H. I can't believe Snowman's going to put that in the show, even in the bloopers, but it's funny. Let's get back to the show, though. Hello, people of the internet and of the world. This podcast you're about to listen to has got bad language in it. Bad. It's language people don't like. Is it bad? We don't think so. But if you don't like that kind of language, this isn't the place for you. And if you do like this kind of language, this is totally the place for you. So here we go. Hey, Reef Beef, swear words, get over it.
Hey, welcome to Reef Beef. We cuss a little bit. If you don't like that, bye. Here we go.
Yeah. Hey, this is Reef Beef. This show is not safe for work, but why the hell are you listening to this at work?
Hey, welcome to Reef Beef. This isn't safe for work, but fuck work.
That's a lame-ass fucking one.
No, it was good.
I had a good one in my head the other day.
I liked it.
What was it?
Oh,
what? Huh? What? Except for right then.
Richard, if you would be quiet, I could get on with the show.
Okay. I promise. I promise I'm going to be quiet now.
Okay, ready?
Starting.
Let's play the quiet game. Ready? And now.
I lose.
Oh, what a loser.
Yeah, when I first started having sex with Ben's mom, I was really bad at it. And it took me about 6 months to really understand. I mean, how bad I
3 kids. She's experienced.
Yeah. So I'm much better at it now, but I'm no expert.
Hey, you ready for some serious water flow? Then try InstaFlow. InstaFlow is only water flow additive made with real waves. Your soft coral's a little bit limp. Your SPS corals have small polyps. Then try InstaFlow and get ready to have gratuitous amounts of water flow. InstaFlow's patent pending formula has been shown to reverse global warming. With InstaFlow, you eliminate the need for any kind of high-powered lighting. InstaFlow is so efficient to make your power meter go backwards. InstaFlow is like having a tsunami inside of your reef. InstaFlow will make your water flow so fast, Mother Nature will be like, slow down, like screw you, and smack her upside the head with your massive polyps. Then you'll get together with Ariel, the Little Mermaid, you'll have 400 frags. And your frags look so nice, everybody think they're from Tonga. Your fish will look around, they think they're on a reef in Tonga. Australian corals will be jealous and they wish they were from Tonga. And Gresh will point out coral, you know where that coral's from? It's from Tonga. But nobody cares because everybody knows the best corals are from Fiji. So try InstaFlow because flow is more important than water. Arrgh.